Like to call to order the City of Saugatuck City Council Workshop for March 4th, 2026. Amy, will you call the roll?
Anderson.
Here.
Clark.
Here.
Dean.
Here.
Gardner.
Here.
Muncy.
Here.
Peterson.
Here.
Stanton.
Here. In terms of agenda changes, are we adding a discussion of interurban? For this meeting? No, okay. Any agenda changes? All right, public comment, on agenda items only. Any public comment? Online, I don't see anybody. All right. Approval of the minutes, page 2. I get a motion?
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
I move we approve the minutes of the regular city council meeting, February 23rd, 2026 as provided.
Second.
Any comments, discussion? Roll call vote?
Anderson.
Yes.
Clark.
Yes.
Dean.
Yes.
Gardner.
Yes.
Muncy.
Yes.
Peterson.
Yes.
Stanton.
Yes.
Motion carries. Okay, we have 4 discussion items today. First up is the Mount Bald Head Vegetation Restoration Proposal. Thanks for joining us, Michelle. And for the background.
So at the 2025 strategic planning session, the Mount Bald Head vegetation was identified as a priority due to the damage caused by the herbicide application. So we reached out to 4 different vendors after the PPW committee had put together the scope of work for the project. So the scope of work, the Land Conservancy of West Michigan's report was provided to everyone. ODC and Kalamazoo Nature Center sent proposals back. I had a lot of email conversations with Davie Research Group and Black River Habitats, and then conversation just stopped. I reached out a couple different times again to try to find out if they were still interested, and they never responded. I reached out to MSU Extension, left them a voicemail, and they never responded either. Parks and Public Works recommends going with the ODC proposal. Their proposal includes the invasive species management, the deer protection, which includes the fencing and tree tubes, the revegetation of the exposed dune, informational signage, and then supplemental native seeding. Their cost was $21,860. Kalamazoo Nature Center's cost total was $33,621.50, and their quote did not include fencing or signage.
Right. I thought the information in the packet was helpful. Questions or discussion from anyone? Russ?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Anderson. Hi, Michelle. You mentioned the other quote didn't include fencing, and so does this
ODC's quote does include fencing.
fencing
and
for,
signage.
okay,
Yep, on page 14,
thank you.
there is examples of the fencing and the tree tubing, and then some different signage options. And then those are approximate locations of where they would put the fencing. They do it in 4 different areas, and it's 900 square feet each section, so they're 30 by 30 areas. And that's to protect it from the deer or other wildlife.
Okay, so that would be permanent fencing?
No,
Just temporary until they get seeded?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. And then the signage options, which I think we probably should have some, sorry about that, my boot may hit the. Agree that there should be some signage put up, that will not be branded with ODC, right? That's going to be Saugatuck City branded, right?
I believe so, yes.
Well, the one sign, or these signs.
I think the signs
Yes,
look
that's
like
their logo.
Kalamazoo River Greenway
Oh, sorry.
logo, which we are a part of. So that's what it looks like. That's the logo for Kalamazoo River Greenway, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The one sign has their website, outdoordiscovery.org, restoration and process.
Yeah, I think that is a custom sign that we can get from them. The ones that they had said, trying to remember, was keep off the trail, work in progress, sensitive dune area.
Right.
Is what they were supposed to say.
Sure.
I assume we can choose what, if our city logo goes on that or
Yeah.
whatever we choose.
Yeah, I would suggest that we just even work with Scott Herbert because he's got signage similar to this out at the Dunes Natural Area. So just might be kind of in keeping with the design and wording on that would be helpful. So I just don't want to see, I mean, we're paying for it, our taxpayers are paying for it. I don't think it's going to be another organization's logo on this, so.
Any other, Chris?
Madam Mayor, thank you. Help me with, this is for the slough that comes down.
Correct.
Right. So how does that,
It's the north side of the steps.
okay?
It's where
Okay.
the trees were all
Oh,
damaged.
yeah, where all the whole runoff.
Yeah, you can see it right
Yeah.
now. Yeah, out
Yeah.
there, yeah.
So where the fencing is gonna go, will it cover all of that area, parts of that area?
Parts of that area, 4 different locations. So there'll be 30 by 30 sections in 4 different spots.
Okay. Good, thank you.
You have those sections marked here on page 14.
Yeah, I got them.
Yep.
Anything else?
Yeah, thank you. Just, this is more for the manager, just to close the book on this. Has there been any further discussion regarding any financial liability for the damage that was done by the company that applied the herbicides?
Sandy?
Yeah, not that I'm aware of, and I mean, it's been, several years, so I think we might have, a challenge with recouping any dollars at this point, but
Yeah, that question gets asked of me quite often.
Sure.
This is,
Uh-huh.
we've been asking for money. Again, $21,000 isn't not a lot of money in the grand scheme of things, but yeah, maybe we just drop an invoice in the mail to the Monsanto accounts payable and see what happens.
Madam Mayor?
Yes.
I was here when that happened and we looked into it and there was no interest at the time on the city council to go after anything that the ODC was associated with. Monsanto at the time had been sued by Chicago and they replaced all those trees, but there was no interest in the city council at that time to move forward.
Okay.
And last question is, do you know Renee Zeta? Does that name ring a bell? Renee's been collecting money at the base of the Bald Head Stairs for several years. And she's been planting trees on her own on that portion of this project. So I would suggest that, and I know Scott Herbert probably has pretty regular contact with her because she's pretty vocal about the care of that area. We should probably try to coordinate with her just to make sure that, because she's collecting money and putting effort into it. It'd be nice if we were just to say, hey, how can we collaborate with you on this, just to make sure we're aligned.
I think she's pulled that money and wants to, because we did have a conversation with her last year about asking her to not plant trees unless she has coordinated with Scott and the city's actually then planting them. Since, so I agree. I think having a conversation with her so that we don't have rogue tree planting and,
Yep, just more of a heads up.
yeah,
for
no,
her.
I think that's a really
Out
good
of respect
idea.
for everything that she's done over there.
Yeah,
So, thank you.
absolutely. Anything else?
If you can come up to the microphone.
it's up to you, Mayor.
Okay,
Just wanted the council to be aware that we also asked ODC to put up that temporary like police tape kind of thing, basically to keep humans out right at the base so that we don't have people, people frequently go up
Okay.
and down that area. So
great. Thanks, Nancy. All right. Okay, thank you, Michelle. Next up is Village Square Courts, page 36 of the packet. Ryan,
Yes, I'm sorry, just let me get there real quick in my packet here. All right, so when we met with you in last month, we talked about the fact that we were successful with our grant application and which was great, right? $100,000 from the DNR passport program. I'm sorry, $150,000. And then the donor was still engaged and willing to donate $100,000. And so last month, we kind of brought those concepts back with some modifications based on some feedback that we had been receiving. And then also an engineering proposal to kind of get, some design work started. There was a lot of discussion about the tennis court and kind of pickleball area and what should be done there amongst yourselves. And so our engineers produced some additional concepts, and the discussion that we had at your early February regular meeting was a request to approve that engineering proposal so they could get to work on getting their survey work and get their design engineering going on the basketball court areas. It seemed like there was consensus there. You approved that. And then the understanding at that time was that we were going to then bring the concepts and your feedback to the Parks and Public Works Committee for their further review and a request for a recommendation to then return to you here at a workshop meeting to hear what their recommendation is, so that way you could work towards a final decision on a concept as well as approving the donation agreement. So the Parks and Public Works Committee met, I think it was last week or the week before, maybe it's all running together a little bit. They kind of came up with a little bit of a different concept, which is was put together by our engineers and is, I think, labeled as Concept 6. Councilmember Stan, I'm happy to turn it over to you if you want to cover what the PPW's kind of thoughts were, or if you want to tag team with your colleagues here. Otherwise, I can cover it too, but you were there, so I don't want to steal any thunder, so.
So, going through, we ultimately, as, consensus from the group, and again, all opinions, there's a lot of good opinions out there and none of them are wrong. But as a group, we came to a consensus that we liked the 2 pickleball option. And then instead of the shuffleboard, we decided on the tables that have the checkerboards on them. And the reason being is it would create a couple of more seating for picnic tables, basically. So multi-use. So you could go there, you could play chess, checkers, that sort of thing, but also adding some picnic tables. So if people want to grab their lunch during the lunch break and come on over there, grab a coffee at the local place that's right next door where they sell cookies and coffee and different things right there, that would be a great place to do that. It just makes it multifunctional to be able to have that. We asked for a couple more benches, and then making sure we're keeping the mature trees and adding a few more trees and a little bit more shading, if that's possible. Obviously, we'll have to see what the budget allows once, we get in and price all of this out. And then the other thing was a pickleball rack. If you ever go to Schultz Park, people put their pickleballs, paddles up so you know who's next in line. It's one of those things that pickleballers use. And those were the only additions and conversations that we had. Nancy, is there anything else that, other than the types of flowers and, the rain garden and making sure that the rain garden is still intact and all of that good stuff? Okay. So again, no opinions are wrong. This was what the PPW committee came up with.
Okay, people's thoughts?
I'm going to stick with the original concept number 1. Reason being is because I worked there, and also discussions with Mike, who owns the bike store there. We both see equal play with tennis and pickleball at that court. I like having the variety of having both and having the net that makes it adjustable so that both folks can use it. I also like the idea of the shuffleboard. I think that was very popular with all of us when we talked about it at the beginning. I kind of do like the idea about maybe having a table or 2 with the chess as well. If we do have room and it is in a budget, I think that's a neat idea as well. But to get rid of the tennis court totally, I can't say that I see that, that's fair. Again, being there all the time, and talking to Mike, who's also there all the time, we see equal people play tennis and pickleball. So I would like to see both available.
And I can explain the reasoning why we did that. The school district has plans, and hopefully we'll be able to redo the tennis courts up by the school. There are 4 full tennis courts up at the school. And we have no pickleball right now. We've been using basically a cement tennis court. So if the plans, go through with the school to be able to redo those courts, we wanted to have signage down by there to say, hey, if you're interested in tennis, it's up by the school. So that was our thought.
That's a nice alternative. Is the surface different for pickleball than it is for tennis? Would it be a different surface treatment?
You can use a treatment that makes it so it's not as noisy.
Oh, okay.
There are options out there that create that. It's kind of a non-slippery surface, so
Uh-huh.
it's not just cement. So it is a surface that you would use for pickleball.
Yeah, Mayor.
Scott?
Yeah, but you kind of teed my question up. I mean, at our last meeting, I was curious about noise, having read that pickleball is significantly noisier than tennis. And I just wondered if the committee, Parks and Public Works, looked at that at all and had any suggestions or thoughts on issues around
That's why we
noise.
went with the 2 instead of 4. And then, the idea that the kind of surface that you use can also, and the pickleball paddles now, if you are kind of up to date on pickleball, they have the core in them that makes them a little quieter than the older pickleball paddles. So a lot of people are turning to those.
No, I didn't know
So
that.
they're not as loud as it used to be.
Okay, and I suppose if need be, we could put, I think I've read that a number of municipalities, if they've had noise issues, have put just signage with hours of play to control that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've gone back and forth on this. But I can't argue with the statistics. We don't have pickleball in Saugatuck. The current tennis court is being used for pickleball. I mean, I'm over there a lot, just like also in Muncie on Sunday mornings at the yoga studio, and there's a routine. There's a group that's always there, like with by clockwork on Sunday mornings to play pickleball. So it's already being used for pickleball. It's fastest growing sport in the US, 4 consecutive years running, 36 million pickleball players versus 23 to 25 tennis players, 200% growth in the past 3 years. It seems like something that, we should probably add, given the aging population we have here and the popularity of the sport. It's also a highly social sport, which kind of is in keeping with this gathering area in Saugatuck. So, this is why I wanted DPW to look at it, because I'm not an expert on this, and I think they've given me a lot more to think about. So I like concept 6 that they came up with.
And one more thing, just to, as far as sound barriers, I looked up quite a few things about what other communities have done as far as sound barriers. And there's actually some panels you can put on the low fences. So around a pickleball court, they're usually low fences, not what you would have for tennis where it's a lot higher.
Mhm.
And they actually have these kind of panels that you can put up. Some of them are clear, that you can put up that can help with sound if that's something we would choose to do someday.
Okay.
Anyone
Yeah.
else? Joe?
Yeah, I mean, I maintain that, I think having multi-use is gonna give us the most bang for our buck, right? And open it up to the widest possible audience that can make use of the facilities and, I'm kind of in the same camp as Gregory. I like option 1. I think, definitely supportive of adding the shuffleboard court. And I haven't really been convinced that there's a downside to not having a dedicated pickleball court. In other words, what's the downside of being able to share the court for both tennis and pickleball and have an adjustable net? I'm not really convinced there is one.
We just heard from different tennis players that said that the striping is confusing for tennis players. So we were taking that into account.
Understood.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, how much that weighs.
Yeah. If we didn't have tennis courts up by the high school, I think this would be a totally different conversation. So.
Yeah, I mean, if we were managing if they were our tennis courts up on the hill, I would almost say, let's have 2 down on the bottom of the hill and, 1 of each on the bottom and 1 of each at the top, or 2 of each at the top by the high school. But, that's not on, that's not in the cards. So, but I still think, I just don't see, I don't know. I'm not totally convinced that's not, having the flexibility isn't in our best interest. That's kind of where I'm leaning right now. And to Greg's point, there's dedicated people, that's like Sunday mornings that are always out there playing pickleball, but
Mhm.
there's also kind of I see tennis players out there too.
Yeah, I see it throughout the week, and I live almost across the street, so I look out there all the time, and pretty much half and half, and that's what Mike agreed to as well, who has a business right across from there. It's true though about it.
Sorry, just to wrap
Oh,
up,
yeah.
I guess if it's council's choice to go with pickleball only, I would just recommend that we have some signage down there that says tennis courts can be found up by the side.
That's what I mentioned,
Oh,
yeah.
I didn't, I'm sorry. I
Yep.
didn't pick that up.
We would let them know where to find the tennis courts, which are, 2 blocks up the hill.
Chris?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I agree with Gregory 100%. Pickle, tennis, and a shuffleboard table. I think the tables, the extra tables for checkers are a great idea.
Uh-huh.
But I agree, 1 pickle, 1 tennis, shuffleboard.
Russ?
Yeah, Madam Mayor, thank you. I just want to thank the donors, Michigan DNR, as well as the PPW for having a lot of conversation on this. I am firmly behind option number 1 for the reasons that have been mentioned. And the way I look at this is that, first off, the Village Square is not designed to be a recreation complex, which is where this is trending. This is an area that we have a lot of visitors that come to and use the playground, sit in the park across the Bert Hillstrom Square, whatever you want to call it, across from the Christian Science Reading Room, and the bathrooms, the pickup basketball court, and the tennis court itself. And a lot of people just get out of the downtown, right? For that 2-block stretch, it's intense. And when you walk out, what I would want to walk into is a Village Square. Think Centennial Park in Holland. It's that kind of a vibe, in my opinion. That's what it's there for, is to allow you to sit down with your kids for a moment, relax with your dog. There's a place to walk your dog behind the basketball court. Encourage the use that it's currently getting, including pickleball and tennis at the court. So that's why I support option number 1. Sagatuck Yacht Club went through the same discussion with our court, and we have both pickleball and tennis on that court. We have not heard any complaints about confusion with the lines on the court. It gets used for both. So again, I'm not a pickleball player. I've been a tennis player in the past. I played on courts that have different lines on them. You work past it. And I think what we really need to be focused on is how is this being used and what do we want the future use to be? And I think it's being used the way it should be used over, pickup basketball, small court, cement court with lines painted on it, nice backboards, which need to be replaced, and then the tennis court. And it's been just kind of retro used for pickleball, so let's make that happen. And the shuffleboard is a legacy to our history, as we've talked about before. It's been there before, and I think it would harken back, and I think it would get used quite a bit more than I think people would imagine. The city of Holland has one of these checkerboard courts down by, it's on A Street. It's down towards the east end of A Street. I don't know how much that gets used. It might be worth asking how much use it gets and how much maintenance it requires. Just be curious on that. The other question I have, and someone mentioned the school. I contacted a school board member. The school has this on their plan for improvement. They are open to discussing with the city converting 2 of their tennis courts into pickleball courts.
Oh,
There you go. And they said, we'd love to talk with the city about that. Let us know when you'd like to chat about it. I think pickleball, I've never played it. It's a loud sport. I've had conversations with several people that live and own properties around there. They are concerned about the noise. As a matter of fact, a couple of them live in other areas that have pickleball near them, and they said there's been lawsuits in their communities, and it's caused a lot of, I think, unnecessary for us would be unnecessary lawsuits. Not to say anybody's going to sue us, but I think if we can avoid that situation altogether, let's do it. So I suggest we go with option 1, have that multi-use, 2-use court that also continues to be able to use it for all the different events that are scheduled down there, the art fairs, et cetera. And also, the school would love, this is a great opportunity for us to collaborate. And I had a question for the manager about whether we could maybe use some of the donor money or maybe some of the grant money to help the school with that cost. I mean, I think the city would want to be in a position to say we could contribute some money to this concept, but let's have a discussion about it.
So one thing I just want you to be aware, we did talk to the school district as well. And when we talked to them, their feeling was that they didn't want to put pickleball up in the neighborhood because of the noise being down more, having pickleball downtown where it's already lively and just being aware of the neighbors up there and not putting pickleball up there. So that's what I heard.
Yep, same argument downtown.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
we just felt because the playground is right across from there and the basketball hoop and everything else. But I was told that they were not planning on doing pickleball up by the school.
Since we're getting maybe 2 different messages, it's worth the conversation to find out what they'd be willing to do.
it's
The-
actually,
Well, go ahead.
just, I was to say, it's actually right next to residential. I don't see the difference of the residential where this is or where the basketball courts are, because these are houses right here. And I know people that live all around here full time. So
Yeah.
I just.
I'm just letting you know
Yeah.
what
Yeah,
our
and-
conversation
So
was.
it sounds like the gravity is around the shared pickleball, tennis, obviously the basketball court, shuffleboard
So
and. go
When
ahead.
when Chris mentioned, she said, one pickle, one tennis, you mean one court and not two courts?
Oh, one of each.
So,
One
because
court,
one of
two
each,
use.
so number one is what Gregory and Joe wanted,
Yeah,
but then
concept.
there's the one option that creates one tennis court, one pickleball, and one shuffleboard.
This is the option I'm supporting.
Yeah,
Not-
that would
not-
be-
It's just
not
taking
the
too much
two-part.
green space, I think.
Yeah, because it just reflects the current usage it's getting. I mean, that's just it's
I was-
just acknowledging the use it's
I
getting.
was just trying to, and PPW was trying to accommodate for the fact that
Yeah.
people are always waiting in line to
Yeah.
play pickleball there. So it doesn't help that situation.
I've
haven't
never seen
that.
people wait in line to play.
Done it, that does it.
Oh, okay.
So,
Yeah, I was.
I mean, where you go to play pickleball and there's somebody already on the court, so you just have to wait. Yeah.
Yeah, I was on concept 1, 2 as, that's where I was at our last meeting on this, although I do have a question though. I mean, when it comes to pickleball tennis, people bring their own equipment. Are we going to be creating more work for staff to put out and collect the
Shuffleboard.
the shuffleboard
Yeah.
equipment? I mean, is that gonna be left out? I mean, I know at the basketball court, I think just Good Samaritans leave a couple basketballs lying around, but are we gonna be adding to DPW's task list to put out and then recover the shuffleboard equipment?
I think that's a great question, Councilmember Dean. In past, when it was here, is we simply had cabinets that they were kept in and they could just be used. They didn't have to be checked out or anything.
Okay.
And that was just, and then they have to be removed at the end of the season and stored for the winter. But that was it. It was just casual use. And I'm looking at, and thank you, Nancy, for your email. Some of the points that are made here is exactly, I think, what we're concerned about. Pickleball is noisy due to the nature of the equipment when compared to tennis. Tennis requires concentration with tennis players preferring a relatively quiet atmosphere. 2, pickleball games can turn over in 15 to 20 minutes. Tennis games can last an hour or more. Pickleball game turnover can be disruptive to an adjacent tennis court. And I think what this begins to suggest in my mind is that pickleball as a sport itself is intense and loud. And is that really what, acknowledge the fact that it's happening down there and have that multi-by-use court, 2-use court, but let's not make it more than what it really is, because then let's see if we can work with the school, maybe put courts up at the school. You've got parking. If there's turnover, you have to manage the court usage and making sure that people are acknowledging and also being respectful that you have this for 15, 20 minutes or hour, whatever we decide. That's just something else we have to manage. It seems to be working well the way it's currently set up, and just upgrade the courts.
So I haven't really weighed in. I am of the, we need to accommodate pickleball. It is the fastest growing, and there's really no place other than that to play it now. If we can do one pickleball and one tennis, but I think I would gravitate to the 2 pickleballs and then shift tennis to the high school, kind of under the theory that they are different kinds of sports requiring different kinds of concentration. So high school can keep the tennis courts, invest in those. That said, I mean, I think there's no perfect solution. I do like the idea of shuffleboard, and if we can also add a table that can be multi-purpose, I think that's a great idea, so.
Yeah, if we can kind of find a compromise, I'm sure everybody would be thrilled. If we can come up with some sort of compromise.
Guys,
But my math right now is 4 members of council are concept 1 and potentially 3 are.
I'm not saying the
Concept.
concept, oh, here's concept 1 way over there. Okay, yes.
Julie has her hand raised. Would you mind
Oh.
letting her know she can have public comment later in that?
Yeah, hi, Julie, we had public comment at the beginning and we will have it again at the end. I think you've expressed your views, so I think we're mindful of your
Either earlier.
background and.
Okay, I'll wait till the end then, because I want to add some things to what the conversation has brought up.
All right,
Thanks, Julie.
thanks, Jamie. So yeah, so concept, so. I guess, so people who want 1 or more pickleball courts, can we just kind of see hands?
You mean dedicated?
Like just a
If
dedicated,
I,
Go
yeah,
ahead.
if I could, I would compromise, to have the multi-use and then another pickleball and then the shuffleboard.
That's-
So
That's
I'm-
5.
would be more like, concept
Concept 5, maybe?
5. Is it 5?
Yeah.
The one that's
On
up there
page
now?
50.
The one that's up
Yeah.
there?
So yeah, so I would compromise to that.
That's what I thought I was voting on.
Yeah, so
Okay.
they were hoping for one, which is just one court. So I like, if I were to compromise, I would go with that one.
Just to make a note here on this, so that's, it's not lost. This, I think, as designed, at least, this would result in some tree loss.
Yes,
So
right.
Mhm.
I just want to make sure that that's kind of noted.
Yeah, and I'm a bit concerned about losing more green space down there. Again, I think we're starting to have scope creep here and going beyond what I really envision this place to be and what it has been for years, and that's a quiet place. And just acknowledge the current use. Having a-
I have to agree that the density of, 2 pickleball courts basically could fit in one tennis court. A tennis court and a pickleball court and a shuffleball court, which is concept 5, I think it does become quite dense.
Mhm.
So I have to agree with Councilman Gardner on that point. I like concept 6. I think it speaks to where we're going, and where our population is going. But I can live with 1 because it's basically like for like. And one question that I didn't ask at the last meeting is, what is the Historic District Commission's role in this, if any?
Yeah, so certainly, they will have to sign off on any
Right.
approval as well.
Okay, so it looks like we're gravitating around either concept 6 or concept 1. Is that correct?
Okay, that's concept 1 up there.
Correct.
That's
I
1.
have a hard time seeing the numbers on this thing.
Yeah, me too. It took me, and then,
Oh. Okay, so that's
and so
4.
the court on concept 1 is mixed use,
6.
and then concept 6 shows 2 pickleball courts. And it sounds like that's where people are gravitating towards one of those. Is that correct?
That's 6, right?
Yeah,
So there, on 6, there would be no tennis at all.
yeah,
Up
and
to
then we'd
pickleball
send
courts.
people to the high school. So does that, can
Yeah.
everybody live with one of those?
I'm a,
And my vote counting is, we've got 4 council members that are pretty firm on concept 1, so, that's what, let's just call.
Yeah.
Let's call it
Just
spade a
To be
spade.
sure, I just wanted to see
Yeah.
if we had 4 votes now that people were looking at 6.
Concept 1, I like the idea, if we had the money, to add the chess checker tables
Okay.
as well. So I think that's a way that we can compromise with the new ideas that were brought forth from the Parks and Planning Commission, or Parks and
Public Works.
Public Works.
and also to just clarify, no money is going into the upgrades to the bathrooms. Is that correct? Bathrooms are not part of any of this discussion.
Just the water fountains.
Just a drink.
the-
Right.
Yeah.
Right. But there's nothing being done to the bathrooms themselves in terms of upgrades. Okay.
Not in
But
this,
also
right?
priorities for next
Right.
year.
Mhm. Oh, I know.
Okay,
I know. Yeah, I just
okay.
want to clarify where we
All
are.
right.
in this.
So we'll have a motion on Monday for concept 1. All right,
I do want to thank the Parks and Public Works Committee. This is
Yeah.
not an easy decision. But appreciate all the feedback, and as Councilmember Stanton said, no opinion is wrong. Just trying to make the right decision, so.
Mhm.
all right. Cool. Well, let's move on to the public speech policy and pallet sign display policy on page 52. We talked about this a couple weeks ago and have it back before us. Ryan.
Yeah, so before you are a couple of proposed policies that have kind of come out of our work to update your signage regulations and your code of ordinances, and kind of taking a look at how signage is where signage is displayed in the city, and how those requests come in, and so the recommendation from staff and really your legal counsel is to consider approving 2 policies, one a public speech policy that would essentially allow for a classification of all of our kind of spaces, or including digital spaces, and allowing us to have a mechanism to classify whether those would be traditional public forums, designated public forums, non-public forums, or government speech places. So those definitions are within the policy, and we discussed those previously with your legal counsel. Anything that's essentially not designated as one of those explicitly would essentially be a space that's reserved for government speech. That doesn't mean that you can't change that at some point. So in the future, if there's a need or a want to by the council to change one of those, change a particular space to being one or the other or something else, that's something that you certainly could do via resolution. And then along with that particular policy is actually making a specific designation for the pallet sign. And what's proposed is that pallet sign be a place for government speech. It doesn't mean that folks couldn't still request to display a message there, but then you would all evaluate that banner request essentially that comes in for events and determine if it's something that you believe you want to exercise as your government speech on the sign. Along with that, staff's proposing kind of some kind of cleanup of different past practices related to the pallet sign and dealing with some issues that have come up with multiple requests or folks, wanting more than, 2 to be displayed, and where, some folks want to be on the sign or upset if they're not on the sign and we don't have room, that sort of thing. So we've kind of proposed some elements there to help with some of that, and that, obviously the city would have first priority in anything that we need to display. But if there's an event or something along those lines that wants to display a banner, that basically no more than 2 could be displayed in that area. So 1 on the actual sign itself, 1 on the ground. We would determine that kind of first come, first serve based on complete event applications that are submitted. Event applications can be submitted basically up to 9 months before an event, and then no later than 60 days prior to an event to avoid any of those, late and last minute requests. And then basically just kind of some language in there to make it clear that obviously we have discretion to move things around if we need to and do something different if need be. So the other piece is that there's some long-standing events that the city is held and that you've approved event banners being displayed on the pallet sign for, and those are listed in the policy. But there's a line that essentially allows you to consider additional events that may come up, and that you could approve other requests from for public events that are reflective of the city's character and values. And there's kind of been some language added there to indicate that could be, traditional, historic, civic, cultural, or charitable events that have importance to the city and or its residents, and are otherwise consistent with the public health, safety, and welfare. So those are all kind of considerations that you would make in determining whether or not to approve a request in the future and whether it's your government speech. I'm happy to answer any questions. We also have Trent Cunningham with our legal firm, if you have any questions for him as well.
Yeah. Mayor? Yeah. And it's for Trent. Thanks for joining us, Trent. Is this reflective of where we need to be as a municipality under current Supreme Court rulings around the First Amendment?
Yes. And I apologize. I'm a bit under the weather, so my voice is a little nasally today, but so it's separate from the sign stuff, which I think is an important distinction. It's all under the same kind of umbrella as Ryan pointed out, but it's different than the sign ordinance. And it aligns with current precedent because of the fact that it relates to government speech. The rules with government speech are a lot different than classic sort of First Amendment on private property speech rights. And the First Amendment speech rights are to some extent controlled by the forum. And so by sort of cleaning up the city's past practice, which has sort of been an informal approval of these certain signs, we can formalize this as a certain type of forum, which is the purpose of the public speech policy, as Ryan pointed out. And then a good example of that is the pallet sign. And so by formalizing that as government speech, we would sort of remove it from I guess the typical considerations of First Amendment speech, and it would be aligned with current precedent because it's the government's own speech. Courts they uphold that frequently. Of course, it can't be used as a guise for things, which is why we recommend formalizing it in a policy. If you have any other specific questions about precedent, I'm happy to sort of address it, but it does align with current Supreme Court precedent, and it cleans up the current city practice.
So it sounds like the government speech aspect of this is well understood by the courts and provides us the necessary protections against legal challenges.
Correct. Courts often will weigh in on that, and they note things like if the government was not allowed to control its own speech in the sense of control what they say and don't say, then the government would not be able to function at all. That was actually one of the quotes from one of the courts on this issue. So it is well established. The sort of key is that it's delegated as such, and that's why I think the policy is a good way to sort of clean this up and make sure that we're firmly in the government speech section. Without the policy, if there was ever a challenge, and maybe this is helpful context, courts would sort of weigh the historical use of that sign in this case, or of that forum, and assign it sort of a certain type of forum. And so, of course, you're not locked into that type of forum, and that's why we recommended that we formalize it as a government speech forum with the policy. Hopefully
Okay,
that's helpful.
it makes a lot of sense now. It sounds like basically it creates almost an insurance policy against future issues. So thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thanks, Trent. Follow-up question to that. Since the ordinance, will the ordinance going forward affect any of the decisions we've made already to allow certain banners up there?
The sign ordinance is that the planning?
Ballot. On the ballot, right? Because I think we approved, we had the discussion about the different
No
meetings
kinks.
in the park, yeah.
Yeah.
And this would create a whole brand new step going forward. This is only going to be allowed as considered as government speech.
For the pallet sign specifically, yes. It would, yep.
Thank you.
But we could, any council could approve anything as its government speech. So, a question why we listed the 22 things. Would that prohibit us, say, I'm going to throw this out randomly, the ugly sweater contest or ugly sweater thing became something the city didn't want to use our government speech for? Would we be obligated, since they're cited in the policy, to approve that?
I think it would be harder to deny one that was specifically expressly stated in the policy. To go the other way, there is a catch-all provision at the end of it that would allow you to approve certain things that are not specifically enumerated. But the idea here is that the ones that are listed are the ones we sort of felt aligned with the character and what sort of has historically taken place at the city. However, it is only just a policy, and so it can easily be amended. And so I don't think council would necessarily be bound if they had an application, as you say, if for like a sweater, ugly sweater event, and they found that to be inappropriate at that time. I think council could amend the policy to remove that. So it wouldn't tie your hands and force an approval, but it might require an amendment to the policy, which requires a majority vote.
I mean, where that could come into play, and I don't mean to pick on ugly sweater. The other thing that could happen, since we are limiting the number of signs to 2, if we have 3 requests from this list, does having them in here jam us up?
I don't
Being
think.
on the- No, I mean, being on the list alone doesn't mean that you're guaranteed a spot. I mean, you still have to apply timely and still first come, first serve, and yep.
All right.
Yep.
Madam Mayor, one more comment. In looking at this, this is one of the kinds of things that we won't know how it's going to affect us until we run into this,
Right.
you know. But the one thing I would suggest, and Jamie would know the answer to this, the display is limited to 15 days prior to the event. Do they need to have 2 weeks? Should we just do it 1 week so that they get the coming weekend? And would that allow more people to have their banner up? Does 15 days?
That's in your current site.
Right, right. And then my only question was if we start running into problems because there's 3 people that want to do it on the St. Patrick's Day weekend, if we made it 7 days ahead of time, would that eliminate any problems of bumping one off the other? I mean, I don't know. I don't know if you need a whole 2 weeks before the event happens for it to be effective. I'm just throwing that out.
Yeah.
Good question.
Good question.
Yeah, and certainly I think that the overlap sometimes is where the problems do come in, right? We do have some overlap when there's kind of running together, and I think, and then or, one event's done and their sign comes down and somebody's already been displayed on the ground, and then they're like demanding that we that day put their sign up on the pallet sign. It's like, well, I mean, we're happy to accommodate when we can, but it's not our first priority. So
So are you saying what, it would be easier if it was just 7 days?
I'm saying it could avoid, some of the overlap, and I'm not saying it wouldn't, probably get rid of all of them, but I think, your events and kind of the sequencing and that might help somewhat. I suspect some event organizers though would probably be, they want as much time as they can get up there to
Right.
advertise their event, and they might be upset by a shortened time frame.
Yeah, Madam Mayor, I could certainly get behind that 7-day I mean, it seems to me to be reasonable. It would take the city out of the position of having to kind of battle different events, right, as they're trying to get their publicity out there. So I could certainly get behind that. So wading a little bit into this government speech space, this is very intriguing to me because I'd never really thought about this in designating certain areas of the city for public forum, non-public forums, government speech spaces. It took me a minute to get the concept here, but I understand now with the pallet sign what the intent is here. So we're not talking about the content of the event or the purpose of the event at all. I mean, that's not within, because that starts to stray into, I may disagree with, let's say someone puts a sign up saying we're going to be having a event to support far-right nationalist party or something like that.
Well,
So-
so it does give us the ability, and I think we could use the real example. So we approved the No Kings March sign. That would come before us and we could say no. And
Ooh.
I think if we do this, and I think, part of what spurred this, some discussion was I think it was October, there was the Democracy Vigil sign up there for the, and some people were really hacked off about that. I, as one member of council, would argue that the city is for democracy and there's no issue for that. And I would say that for No Kings too, because we're a democracy and not a monarchy. And I think there's nothing wrong with us using our government voice to say, even with this new ordinance, yeah, that's fine. But that would be a change. And I think especially on what we've had, in the last year, we would certainly want to let some organizers know that there might be some debate around whether we put their sign up. Because I don't know that this council would have approved No Kings if this policy were in place.
Thank you, Mayor. And as I look at the list of events that are here, and just thinking back as to what the whole purpose of this was, right? It's just to simply get your event out there for people to see when they're coming into town, right? That sounds like fun. Music in the park, Saugatuck Film Fest, whatever you choose. I mean, it's just a matter of, we want to promote these events. The political side of it is something brand new to this conversation. And, I personally, I'm a little reluctant to say I would turn down a request for any one of these events because of my political position. I mean, it starts to stray into areas that I'm not 100% comfortable with. So I don't know, it used to be that we'd approve a sign. The only stipulation that we had was that it'd be an event that benefited a organization within the city limits of Saugatuck, or now it's expanded a little bit into a organization that may be within the area.
Mhm.
It was, that was the major driver upon saying yes or no. Does it benefit an organization for our community?
Right.
Yes or no? If it did, got approved. Content didn't matter. If it didn't, there was some debate about it. And we seem to be straying away a little bit from that. I mean, this should be just more of a, hey, who's going to put the banner up? What's the size going to be? How long is it going to be up? Who's going to take it down? What if it falls down because this happened a couple of years ago. One of the banners came down and I had to go out with Connor, our old deputy, and actually tie that thing back up because it happened on a Saturday. Was it rigged correctly? I mean, those are the things I think concern the city more about who's going to maintain the signs, take them down, put them up, because there's cost and time involved with that. The content of the sign,
Well,
I don't know how you.
so we talked about that last time. I mean, I, like you, have spent a lot of time thinking about this. So Ryan gets calls, or the city manager gets calls every June about why we're displaying a pride flag.
Sure.
And the answer is it's our government speech. So, and the flag, I mean, so our flagpole is covered by government speech. If it weren't, then people could ask us to fly all sorts of flags and I think pride is something actually that some people consider political.
sure.
And
Oh, yeah.
Yep, I have.
Of course.
so I think we need, I mean, so, we will, and I think we will have that discussion about other things, and we need to be mindful, and obviously we can change the policy, but we are making values decisions with these.
So, so to that point, just the banners themselves, that's the discussion on the pallet sign.
Right.
So if an event comes to town and says, we want to hold an event down at Coughlin Park, and we're the, far right nationalists, whatever, far left, whatever. And I may disagree with the politics, but if they fill out the event application, they have a safety meeting, everything is done, that's signed off on, I don't care about the politics of it. It's the sign that's the difference here. So if they say, I'd like to put up an event banner, the council will have, if this policy passes, we'll have the ability to say no, because 4 members of our commission don't agree with the politics of your event.
I was initially, I initially shared your concerns, Councilman. I did. The First Amendment issue is very complicated. And I brought it up at our last meeting. But legal counsel has given me the confidence that this government speech component allows us to do the right thing when we have a situation that, although it might be a free speech situation, one would argue, it could also create a public safety issue for our community. So I'm very much in favor now of doing this government speech, process that we can go through, because, there could be an entity that would want to have an event knowing full well that that event could lead to violence in our community and create public safety issues. So I think this gives us the legal protections, yet the authority to do the right thing to keep our community safe. So that's why I'm in favor of it.
I think perhaps a helpful analogy would be for government speech and classifying the pallet sign as such would be like if you think about the city's website, like you wouldn't necessarily allow anything to go up on the website. You would want to have control over who's the speaker and what's being said on there. So I think it's sort of similar to that. Hopefully that's somewhat of a helpful way to sort of think about it.
And we also had this conversation at our last meeting that, for example, No Kings was approved during our consent agenda because it's a public gathering in a public space. We could have an entity that is not popular in our community go to that public space. There's very little we could do to stop that under the First Amendment. So that's a whole different, and that would be a different situation.
Right, so, and I think to Russ's point, so we might not put a sign up for whatever, but that doesn't prohibit them from having a rally on public space.
Exactly, correct.
Correct. So yeah, there is this difference between the right of assembly.
So it's
and
not
public
saying you
space.
can't do it, it's saying you can't put your sign up.
Yeah, because that's our signage, that reflects our government speech. So this is why it's complicated.
It is complicated.
Yeah.
And this would certainly explain why a number of municipalities are now starting to go to the approach. There is absolutely no political speech, period, in a community that includes rainbow sidewalks, signs such as we're talking about for events that we may disagree with the politics behind it. Some municipalities are really going to the nth degree now to say, we're going to get out of that business altogether. So we don't have that discussion. We don't get ourselves into a situation of getting sued or having the city manager get calls every June over pride flags, et cetera. So I'm not suggesting we go that route. I'm just saying a lot of communities are responding to this situation in that manner.
Madam Mayor, but then that's not saying what he's saying. He's saying that if it's a public event
Right.
and a public thing, we can do it.
Yes,
So,
correct.
but what I'm hearing from you is give it all up. We can't do that. We can't stop stuff from happening in a public event in a public park.
No. That's not what I'm saying.
Oh, okay.
There's other like flags and painting sidewalks and things like that. So.
Stop that.
All right, any further thoughts? Thanks, Ryan. Thanks, Planning Commission, and thanks, city attorneys. All right, that takes us to proposed housing bills that are in the Michigan legislature. Ryan.
Sorry. It's been some bills recently introduced in the state legislature that's gotten the attention of our Michigan Municipal League, which we're we're members of, as well as the Michigan Association of Planning, our neighbors in Douglas, and several other communities across the state. And there are a group of housing bills that I think, you know, there's good intent, and there's work being done to try to solve housing affordability issues. But there's been some concerns raised around these bills, which cover such things like accessory dwelling units, minimum setbacks, lot sizes, dwelling unit sizes, where the state legislatures essentially proposed some bills to mandate what those requirements should be and really preempt any sort of local zoning that you might have along these same lines. And so the Michigan Municipal League is asking communities to kind of either sign letters or somehow, you know, speak up to kind of express how, you know, you feel about this and feel about this preemption. As you can see, there's also the Michigan Association of Planning, who actually is fairly supportive of the bills, with maybe some modifications to either clarify things or maybe reduce the scope a little bit as far as who's impacted, and limiting it to, you know, cities and villages and charter townships that are in metropolitan statistical areas. You can see our neighbors in the city of the Village of Douglas have already drafted and submitted a letter to State Representative Andrews, kind of expressing their concern with the bills. And really, when we look at, you know, as I've taken a look at the bills, I think some of the immediate things that kind of really stick out are concerns with, you know, mandating essentially, you know, more density throughout, you know, a community. I mean, obviously, we have a lot of infrastructure that we spend a lot of dollars on, but is that infrastructure right size for that purpose? We also have community character and a lot of things at the local level that you all weigh out to make these sorts of decisions. And really, we're ahead of the game. We've already done some of these things that really are being considered in the bill, although some of these proposed bills would actually take us even further than maybe we're ready to do. And we're obviously engaging in a process right now where we're updating our master plan and may update our zoning and may actually, you know, head in the direction that with some of these suggestions. So talked with the mayor and she thought it was, you know, we discussed that it was probably best to bring this forth to you as a council to see if you wanted to weigh in at all. Either for or against, or say nothing at all. You don't have to do anything. If you want to weigh in, we can draft some sort of resolution. We can draft a letter like Douglas did, or like I said, just kind of leave it be. Wanted to get your thoughts on that.
Chris.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Speaking as a former legislature person, this is legislative creep. And what happens is there's a couple of problems that rise all the way up to the legislature. And so they make this blanket thing to take care of everything.
Mm-hmm.
City government is more one-on-one with what your culture is like, what your city is like. So I absolutely oppose this.
Yeah,
Well said.
yeah,
Yeah.
I agree with the council member, and I support the staff's recommendation to send a letter.
Yeah.
Agreed.
100%.
It's an easy one.
Yeah.
I guess the question is, what's the most meaningful response, a resolution or a letter? What would your recommendation be?
It's either one Douglas here.
Or both?
I respect Matt Ballmer quite a bit. I've known Matt for a long time, and he knows that community as well as anybody in these towns. And if this is something he's got behind, I can get behind it too. And so I would suggest maybe we just use his or their letter from the city of Douglas as just kind of a stepping point for us.
The letter versus a resolution, or both a resolution and letter. And Chris, I'd be curious your perspective. What do you think would have the greatest impact on state government?
You know, a resolution would be, especially if it's sent specifically to our representatives. I think that sends a strong vote. A resolution means we actually took a vote on something.
Good point. I support a resolution.
Yeah, you technically speak through your resolutions, right? So, yep, we could draft it in that form. We could take the Douglas letter and kind of put it in a resolution type format to make similar points, certainly.
It's more formal.
Mhm.
Sure.
I don't think Mr. Balmer and Mayor North would have an issue using their. Probably just.
Yeah, I did ask the Douglas manager and she was comfortable with me sharing the letter in your packet today.
Yeah, and Kathy reached out to me and said that she hoped we would do something similar. So,
I'll work on drafting a resolution and have it ready for you, hopefully on Monday. So
awesome. Great. Gosh, it's not even five, it's not quite five and we're almost done.
Happy hour.
I know. Takes us to our second public comment period. Any public comments online? All right, closes public comments, council comments. Lauren, you want to start?
It was a good discussion about all of the topics today, but in particular, the Parks and Public Works and the Village Square. I will say that I'm sure Parks and Public Works will be a little disappointed, and like I say every time about our opinions, we all have them. But the fact that we're going to have a brand new court, it's going to be lovely. It's going to look like the brand new playground that's across there, having like everything new and fresh. I think everybody will be on board with just having something new and fresh and just, something we can be proud of. I think we'll all be thrilled once it's all done.
Yes, give them our big thanks.
Yeah, you bet.
Gregory?
I think these were all great discussions and I'm just happy to be here. That's it.
Awesome. Scott?
Yeah, just once again, I mean, I think I suggested, and I'm very grateful for Parks and Public Works looking at it. But, there's 7 of us and, we have to reach consensus and the consensus wasn't there. But I think we all agree to capture that DNR grant, capture that donation is top of mind for all of us. So I think at the end of the day, it's still a good outcome.
Joe?
Same thing. I hope you'll let everybody on the committee know that we appreciate all the hard work and it's, it was a tough decision. And the important thing is we're actually moving the ball in the right direction. And like you said, there is no winner or loser. So a little bit of a beauty contest, but most importantly, really appreciate all the work they put in.
Yeah, I think a good discussion too. Just as I was thinking about it, I had mentioned the bathrooms. I think if we could maybe start thinking about maybe doing that in conjunction with this project. Because I think what will happen is that we see the nice, new, wonderful, upgraded, everything we do, and they're like, why didn't they do anything to the bathrooms? People don't necessarily disconnect those two. They think it's all one. So just word to the wise, that might be something we want to take a look at in conjunction with this sooner rather than later. Just because it will look more in conjunction with itself. So, and let's talk to the school about the courts. I mean, the school board member I talked to said, yeah, let's talk. Let's really talk about it. So let's do this while I'd be more than happy to be a part of that conversation and take it from there. I do want to come back to a workshop here very soon. I want to bring up again free Oval Beach passes for residents. This comes up regularly every season. People their tax bills are going up. And people are just saying, is there something you can do to maybe help us out? And something that we've talked about before, and I'd like to bring back to the table and have another vote on this, is to offer free Oval Beach passes, which we've done in the past. It's about $8,000 a year in quote lost revenue if we were to do it. 1 Oval Beach pass for each property in the city. I think that's a real nice goodwill gesture. I think it'll go a long way towards helping residents feel as though we're doing something for them as opposed to focusing on things other than them. I'd also like at some point to discuss our current operating millage and opportunities to reduce. I don't know if you've been having conversations or comments from residents, but I don't know if it was that mistake that was made by the assessor where I got 2 calls on their bills and like, Russ, help me understand what's going on. And then we got that email which corrected the situation, which was appreciated. But it got me thinking a little bit about our operating millage. We've been really blessed in this community over the past probably 10 to 15 years in terms of just the appreciation of our property values, the developments over across the river, et cetera, that we've gotten a far larger amount of money coming in for property value increases and so forth. And it's increased a lot of people, especially new to the community, their tax liability. And this is something I'd like to have a serious discussion about, whether there's an opportunity to reduce our operating millage by a small amount to maybe put a little bit more money in people's pockets. I think we need to be, listening to people, and I've heard it from, hopefully maybe others are hearing it too.
Mm-hmm.
My taxes are so high, is there something you can do? So the Oval Beach passes, I think, is an easy one, provides a lot of goodwill, and it's something we've done in the past. And I think discuss the current operating millage, even if it doesn't go anywhere, have the conversation.
Thank you. I'm going to go a little off track. This is one of our smaller agendas. And if you look at all the time and effort and work that went into this from our staff, our attorneys, John Moxie, all of this, And it all comes together so beautifully
Mhm.
every week. And I just want to thank you for that. It's absolutely amazing and nice conversations.
I will build on that, Chris, too. Yeah, so I mean, PPW, both the committee and the team with the vegetation, the courts, planning with the sign ordinances and so engineers, lawyers, staff, and our various committees, it's we are lucky to be so well prepared and to have people run our city so well. It seems what we can talk about in terms of the millage and the Oval Beach passes, that might make sense as we get closer to budget time to talk about those. That's it. A motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor, say yes.
Yes.
Meeting adjourned.